I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the Solid Waste Advisory Commission regular meeting for August 25th, 2021. It is now 1 minute after 4. We'll proceed to roll call. Indicate if you're present. Mark Nelson. Here. Steve Corey. Here. Scott Walters. Here. Sean Keating. Meg Larson.
Here.
Karen Richmond. Here. Randy Spiewak. Tom Oddie. Here. We'll now go on to ex officio members. Rochelle Klein. Conrad, I assume if I have something I need to ask about, I'm to ask you. Thank you. And Councilwoman Liz Strader.
Here.
We're in being present, we'll go ahead and move into the meeting. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have two sets. The first one is from the July 28th regular meeting. Hopefully you've had a chance to review those, and are there any comments on the draft minutes?
Mr. Chair, I noted a spelling error in the second to last paragraph on the July 28th minutes, but with that correction for the spelling of the word quorum, I would move to approve the July 28th and August 11th meeting minutes.
It's been moved and seconded that the proposed minutes for July 28th meeting be approved with as amended. Other comments? Sensing the commission is ready for a vote, all those in favor of approving the minutes as drafted signify by saying as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The motion passes. Next, we'll move on to the minutes for the August 11th special meeting. Are there comments?
Mr. Chair, no comments, but I would move approval of the August 11th special meeting minutes.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that the proposed minutes for the August 11th special meeting be approved as written. Is there further comments? Sensing the commission is ready for a vote, all those in favor of approving the draft minutes for the August 11th special meeting signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? The motion passes. Thank you. We'll move on to program reports. And the first item under program report is new city staff. And Alex, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, commissioners. Joanna would like to have been here this afternoon, but she had a last-minute issue come up, so I have the distinct honor of introducing to you our new solid waste coordinator. Sayard Schultz has been on the job for an entire 2 days now, so we would like to welcome her to the city of Meridian. Sayard comes to us from Minnesota. She has a master's in environmental policy, so very happy to have her on board. We thought this would be a great opportunity to introduce her to you since she'll be working pretty closely with this group. Sayard, if you'd like to say anything, feel free.
You want to go? Sorry, can you pull the microphone so Liz can hear you?
I'm really excited to be here and take on this new responsibility, and look forward to working and meeting with all of you.
Well, welcome, and we definitely are glad to have you on board. Commissioners, anyone have any questions or comments?
Just welcome.
Well, we'll definitely be talking more.
Thank you. And I have been, it pointed out that I was remiss. We need to go ahead and approve the agenda. So we'll go ahead and do that at this point. Is there any comments on the proposed agenda?
Mr. Chair, no comments, but I move we approve the agenda as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the drafted agenda be approved as written. Other comments? Sensing the commission is ready for a vote, all those in favor of approving the draft agenda as written signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The motion passes. Thank you. And so now we return to the Republic Services Quarterly Report. Due to Joanna's absence, we'll actually continue that on till next month and take care of it then. With that, we'll move into old business, the Community Recycling Fund program. As mentioned before, we have a little over $40,000 that's available in that. And so it is appropriate for us to discuss whether that should be used and how it should be used. I know that Sean King had put together a proposal. I'm not sure that that's been circulated, and Sean's not here to go ahead and discuss it. But the subject is open, and the chair is looking for any comments that anyone may have on the Community Recycling Fund.
Mr. Chair, just to refresh, we had the proposal from Commissioner Keating, and if I recall correctly, there was also consideration of using a portion of the fund. Is it both, or am I remembering that incorrectly?
You're correct. There's really been no condensing or coalescing on the subject at this particular point. So indeed, the floor is wide open as to whether we were to do a forward-looking process, encouraging people to do good projects, or to a backward-looking one to reward people who've had good projects, or to open up a grant program. And we could do any combination of those or something else if someone's got another idea as to what could be done.
Mr. Chair, I believe that it would be beneficial for the community for us to open a grant process as at least one part of this.
I would be in favor of that as well. I'm inclined to keep the money moving.
Chairman. Also, one suggestion is with your new coordinator coming from another area, they may have other programs in other places that she might be aware of that might be another idea to have that conversation on different types of programs, trying to find other different ways through outreach to the community.
Thank you. Certainly, having SWAC projects could be a portion of what gets done. Certainly, if there's some need for communication to address contamination or encourage diversion, all of those would be possibilities.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would
Commissioner Hardy.
recommend that we use some of the community, some form of budgeting to actually advertise that we're looking for grant suggestions from the community, just so people know to make suggestions.
Mr. Chair,
So yeah,
kind of reminds me of, we have, and Bill knows about this, we have like a participatory budgeting program in the city that's kind of similar to this, in the sense that ideas come from the community and then there are grants available and there's sort of a whole process. So I don't know, Bill, is it worth following that process? I don't want to overwhelm the team that's working on that, but I wonder if we could leverage that infrastructure.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I mean, at the minimum, with the city's communications manager, certainly coordinating between the commission, public works staff and the communications, they will have a communications person on board again soon with public works. But right now we're one person down in that area, but we do have a city's communication manager. So from the public outreach perspective, there's certainly an avenue to work through to get a tool out to the public, whether it's through social media or some other means. The participatory budgeting process, we have used the Mayor's Youth Council for part of that. We've also used the Senior Advisory Board for part of that. So again, how that comes together to get community feedback really could be done in a couple different ways. That we already have some sort of mechanism in place that we can coordinate between staff, the commission, and the communications team. So I think there's ways we can do that. And again, you may end up with 2 or 3 varieties of ideas that are worth exploring that might hit different needs in our community, outreach, education, and such. So.
Mr. Chair, the previous grant program or grants that we have done, who was it that was coordinating, receiving those applications, getting materials to the commission and so forth?
Thank you, Commissioner. We have been highly dependent on Republic Services generosity. Conrad is here, and Conrad helped in the communication process and then solicited the grant requests and collated them to make sure that all of the information that we request in our application was put together, and came over and gave a highlighted view of the proposals. And then we considered that those that were there. And I believe that should we pursue this past, Conrad has said that he would be available to perform the same tasks.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Adi.
so with the resources available to advertise and the resources available to coalesce and collate the incoming suggestions, I think we have a pathway ahead of us.
Also, Mr. Chair, seems like we should take advantage of I don't know what kind of constraints we had on those requests and what criteria they met for Conrad to even evaluate them, but it seems like that wouldn't have changed since a couple years ago. So if we could dust those off and kind of make sure they're still relevant.
Conrad, go ahead and come on up. Check my memory and discuss this. I think the way we had this set up was that up to a certain level, and I can't remember if that was 2,500 or 5,000, we would give 100%, and then over the top of that, it was only half. Anyway.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, good to see everyone again, by the way. And some new faces, familiar ones too. I am a little fuzzy on the exact details, but this is all sounding really familiar. And Commissioner Nelson, like you said, it would be worth dusting off I think it's a 12-pager recommendation or requirement process. And one of the qualifiers is there has to be a certain percentage of your project that's recycled or reclaimed from recycled material. I want to say 75% of it has to be, but I could have that backwards. It could be 25%. Another portion or requirement is the monetary side. And the recycling fund will match, and I want to say 50%, like dollar for dollar. And there might be a minimum, there might be a maximum, but there is a match. So the applicant has to put in some of their own funds, whether it's bootstrap fundraising that they did on their own, or it's their own money. But they got to come up with, I believe it is 50-50 on that program. And so we didn't do it during COVID. And then the years prior, the recycling commodities were so low that the fund ran out. And so it's been quite a few years, maybe 3 or 4. The last ones to be approved were the miniature library, which was a shipping container turned into a mobile library. And then the other project there, one of the parks invested in, I believe they're made out of recycled plastic, but litter containers to place around one of the new parks. That's what I recall so far. Any questions?
No questions. Mr. Chair, I would think that the bones of the previous grant program are probably adequate for what we're trying to do. And I would propose that we come back at our next meeting with a fully formed proposal, dollar amounts, timeline for the grant cycle, et cetera. And I would be happy to work with Conrad and pulling something in writing together for the board to, or the commission to look at. And probably follow up with Commissioner Keating and Ms. Schultz as well, and pull all that together into something concrete.
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner Larson, just to add on that, I think in the past, the dates have led up to where this would launch October 1, the beginning of the fiscal year, and close within a month or two. And the project was to be started a calendar year, the following year, so it'd be 2022, let's say. And project would have to be completed by the next fiscal year, so that would be September 30th, 2022, is I believe the process.
I think the discussion that we've had is right on target on this thing to bring back the package so that we can see the details of the activity. So I believe the only thing that's useful is the sense of the commission on whether they want the available funds to be used for a grant program or if they want some other activities. So if there's a motion or comments on that subject, that'd be appropriate at this time. On the other hand, if it is useful to go ahead and see the details before we go ahead and do that, that's appropriate too. So comments are appropriate either way.
Mr. Chair, I would think action on a concrete proposal would be appropriate at our next meeting, and that proposal would include the dollar amount to apply toward a grant program, if any.
Mr. Chair, my recommendation would be to leave a portion of the recycle fund for SWAC projects and or communication efforts.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think we're all in agreement as far as taking advantage of some of these funds for a grant program. And then Commissioner Keating is also concurrently kind of working on some incentive programs. And that's kind of a separate effort, but would be the same potential pool of funds. So we'll just kind of keep that in mind that let me speak next, I guess.
Okay, I believe I have a sense of the committee that definitely we want to follow up on this, that Commissioner Larson will go ahead and work with Conrad to run through the last package or one of the packages that we've had in the past and just make sure that there aren't any things that need to be updated based on time or something, but to go ahead and be able to bring back to the commission some more of the guts of the commission, the grant program for the next meeting. And then at the next meeting, we would decide how much of the available funds would be set aside for a grant program. I would love a motion on that. Obviously, I could go ahead and say without objection, but I'd prefer a motion and a vote.
Mr. Chair, I move that we table the community recycling fund discussion until our next meeting when we have more concrete budget numbers and time to discuss how we want to allocate funds fully.
It's been moved and seconded that we'll table this discussion until the next meeting, at which time there'll be better, more complete account standing as well as direction for the grant program for its consideration. Is there further comments? Sensing the commission is ready for a vote, all those in favor of tabling the discussion until next month signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? The motion passes. We did go ahead and pull together a good deal of that information from Andrea's files here. Bill forwarded it to myself and Joanna. Either Joanna or I will go ahead and forward it to you, Commissioner Larson, and you can, well, and Conrad, and the two of you can work forward with it. I would imagine if you could include Sayard in the conversations, and anyone else that wants to be involved in that, make your intentions known to myself, and we'll be prepared to discuss it next month. Now, with that, we move on to new business. And this is more of an informative item. We're approaching the end of summer. Amazing how fast it's gone this year. And so looking ahead at leaf collection, one of the things that we had last year was the ability, some bins that were put up in the parks for people to stop and drop off leaves to be collected. That was something that Republic provided for us. And so there was some question about it this fall, but I have been informed that Republic has offered to go ahead and do that again this year. But of course, this is kind of a occasional offer and stuff like that. So we may need to revisit this next year if we feel like it's a useful thing and we need to go ahead and figure out some way to finance it. Having said that, Conrad, do you have anything you want to talk about that to us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I apologize earlier. I did not formally introduce myself for those that do not know me. My name is Conrad McDaniel. I work for Republic Services and out of the office on Franklin between 10 Mile and Linder. And my title is Municipal Marketing Coordinator, and I report to Rochelle Klein and Bob Bennett. And I have been with Republic Services since 2008. So I've learned a few things and I continue to learn more. Yes, I am prepared to talk about the leaf site drop-offs for this fall. I have brought the recent flyer that went out in the invoices. I don't know if anyone's received one of these yet. So I'll start passing those down. Now, my role with this program last year was to keep track of the data, how many hauls, were they clean hauls, and how much did they weigh. Beyond that, I didn't really have a whole lot of operational experience with the program. So I may rely on the experts in the room. I know Tom Oddie was heavily involved last year, and Bob Bennett was heavily involved last year and in this year's planning. So if I am unclear or get something that might be incorrect, please feel free to correct me, or and we can address it with the two experts. But what you're looking at here is a notification for this year's leaf cleanup. It does announce both curbside collection and drop site programs. So at the top there, you have curbside collection running November 1st through the 19th on the customer's collection day, regular collection day for trash. Not necessarily recycling, because that's picked up every other week. And so leaves will be picked up every week on the customer's trash day by a separate truck that collects leaves for leaf recycling and compost. I should also state that I mentioned that this went out to billing inserts, but not this exact copy. This was a copy that I had made an edit for Rochelle. So you'll see that highlighted on the bottom. So don't panic thinking that that went out like that. So another thing about curbside collection that I see here that might stick out, it looks like those bags will be out by 6 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. And this is to get a head start on the leaf bag collection. We never know what kind of season to expect. I've seen it all from 3 feet of snow to sunny and no leaves on the ground to a perfect climate where all the leaves are on the ground, all in the same week, and everyone cleans them up in the same week. And now you went from no bags 1 week to every house having 50 bags the other week. And that kind of flow of trash can push operations back. And what we want to avoid is rolling anyone over to the next service day. We want to get them collected on their day. So having that extra hour gives us that little extra time. So drop site locations, I'm not going to read them all off. There's mostly all the parks, with the exception of 2 parks, Bear Creek and Chateau Park. And if I remember right, we had a lot of contamination last year with the leaf drop sites there. So also there weren't a whole lot of leaf hauls anyway. I think between the 2 parks, there were only 3 successful leaf recycling hauls there. So those have been removed from the program. In addition to parks, there's going to be a box at Renaissance High School and Meridian Transfer Station, as always, as well as the landfill, Ada County landfill. The container size we're looking at is 20 and 30 yards. 20 yards are nice because it's very user-friendly to the average human being. It's a good height to throw your bags into. Of course, obviously a 30-yard will hold more, but they're much taller and less user-friendly. But to get away from that, we can open up a door on either side, depending on how you look at it, if it's the front or the back. But we can open a door for customers to walk in with their leaves, and they don't have to worry about throwing it 8 feet up in the air, up and over, or walking up steps or ladders to dispose of their heavy leaf bags. So that's what we're looking at for container size. As far as scheduling, it's going to be kind of similar to last year where we had a set schedule, but it was a hybrid. So I can't remember the exact days. I want to say it was Monday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Friday, that they were scheduled to at least be looked at. If they're full, we would haul them. If not, we would just drive on and check the next site. And it was hybrid because maybe on Tuesday it was empty, and next time we would check it would be Friday. Well, Tom and some of our ops, you remember this, that's why you're smiling. Tom and some of our operation employees would also be checking those on off days, see if they were getting overloaded or contaminated and needed to be emptied. So it was a hybrid, a total team effort between Meridian and Republic Services to get that taken care of. I think that covers pretty much everything. I had a little note here. The drop sites will be open a little bit longer. It looks like a week earlier and a week later. No, it's going to end about just 2 days later for the drop sites, but the landfill is going to have theirs open a week earlier too and stay open a week later. So we've expanded the range of when customers can drop off or recycle their leaves. And with that, I will stand for questions. Thank you.
Commissioners, any comments or questions on what Conrad has just presented?
I have a question. You had mentioned that 3 of these sites were more popular than the others.
Well, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Richmond, I did not, I can tell you which ones, but I think what you might be referring to is the non-park sites, which would be Renaissance High School, Republic Services Transfer Station, which is the most used. So I'm glad you bring that up, and the Ada County landfill. Commissioner Richmond, does that answer your question? Or did you want to know which ones are the highest used? Because I could tell you that as well. Okay. So last year we had 21 hauls at Meridian Transfer Station, and all 21 were successful. That's easy because we always have employees there to correct the contamination problem. And then it looks like next would be Settlers Park. This is impressive. They were 7 out of 7 on clean hauls, according to my record. And that's really impressive. And then it looks like we have a tie for third. That would be Renaissance High School. And they had 5 of 6 clean hauls. And Tolley Park had 4 of 6 clean hauls. Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. It's interesting to me too.
Comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, I think this is quite possibly the smartest program that we could have for a short use season like leaf season. People don't have the constraints of curbside collection anymore, and it runs darn near through the entire time that leaves are accepted. It removes all the excuses for weather, for anything else, for people not to properly recycle their leaves for a higher use rather than having to landfill them.
Mr. Chair, just one question. Is there any other promotion notification of the program besides the bill insert, social media or anything like that?
Conrad?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Larson, about future promotion of this, not that I'm aware of. I think last year we ran it through Trash Talk Tom, and Joanna's not here to confirm a further media plan. Rochelle put this billing insert together, and I don't know what's coming next, but I'm sure it's not going to stop just there.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just to add to what Conrad is saying, we would intend to also have this on our website. So that will be additional communication that will be forthcoming on this. So.
Good. Further comments, questions? Thank you, Conrad. I really appreciate you providing the service and being willing to be here to talk about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I appreciate your time today and look forward to the fall season.
Thanks, Conrad.
And with that, because of the things that we've continued on, that completes the business that we had scheduled for this meeting. The next meeting is September 22nd. We will go ahead and work with the continued discussions for the quarterly report and for the recycling fund program. As always, if there are other subjects that you'd like us to go ahead and run through, go ahead and get them to myself or to Sayard, or mention them, and we'll go ahead and work them in. Having had the extra meeting, I feel good about giving you a little bit of extra time for your evening today. So unless there's any announcements that we need to go ahead and present, then I will go ahead and call the meeting adjourned at 4:36. And thank you for your work on this commission.
Have a good one, guys.